he came up with, he wrote the entire video, directed it, and did all the set design and art direction. And so there was like a lot of costuming, and I'm like, oh my God, like I haven't worn anything that isn't black in a long time.
My name is Adam, and this podcast is all about you, and we're going to talk about your journey in music, if that's cool.
I love it.
I love it. And I want to say happy birthday, because I did read that it was your 14 years you just
had?
Yeah,
sober anniversary. Yep.
So cool. Congratulations. I just got 4 years last month.
Amazing. Yeah, I love it.
That's so cool. I just wanted to congratulate you. When I was doing research, I knew you were sober, but then I heard you say in an interview that it was on July 7th. I was like, oh, that just passed. So happy birthday.
Thank you. That's amazing.
So cool. So first off, why don't you tell me where you were born and raised?
Well, I was born in a really small town in Mexico called Montemorelos. It's in the state of Nuevo León, about 7 hours south of Texas or so.
Yeah, that's east, right?
Southeast
Texas or southeast Mexico.
Yeah, and so I was born there, and we moved to America in like the late 80s when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I lived in Southern California, for most of my life.
Okay. So, I'm from Southern California as well. I'm from San Diego, but now my family moved to Nashville. So,
nice.
But in the midst of this pandemic, but SoCal kid. Inland Empire. That's where you were born and raised, or raised?
We first moved to the Inland Empire, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours east of LA, and at the time it was like not developed at all. It was just like tumbleweeds, and there was like no Starbucks or anything like that. Now I think they got like an actual freeway going through there, so there's more going on. But I moved out to LA when I was about 16 or so, or 17, so just I guess I consider myself a SoCal girl too. I spent most of my time here.
That's cool. When did you get into music?
Well, it's funny because I think a lot of people know me from tattooing or makeup and stuff like that, but not everyone knows that like music has always been like my first and foremost biggest passion. I was actually playing classical music at the age of 5 years old. I was like classically trained by my grandmother, who's a pianist, and so I was brought up on the classics, Beethoven, Mozart, Chopin, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah, and I love it. I still play the piano every single day, and I still love classical music. And I think that's why when I discovered like metal, I really responded to it because the musical structure is so similar. I was like, oh, like I would hear these riffs, and I'm like, oh, that's like a scale. Like that's so amazing. So I really, I guess, just like fell deep into that world, and then you kind of graduate and grow up into discovering other music. And when I discovered like post-punk stuff, like, Depeche Mode, The Cure, Susie and the Banshees, that kind of thing, that's like really where I feel like my heart lived, because it combined everything. It was like the technical aspect of music was there, but also the like lyrically, like the poetry behind it was something that resonated with me. And, I'm like a sucker for like love songs, and so
Well, going back real quick to the piano, was that something that you were drawn to, or was it
your
grandma said, hey, you need to learn piano?
No, it was my parents really, but we come from a pretty musical family. Like everybody in our family plays at least 2 instruments, and and we didn't come from money at all, so I think we just had like a ghetto ass piano that my dad found somewhere, but it was really my parents who were the disciplinaries behind it. Like while everybody else was outside playing and going to slumber parties, we had to practice 2 hours a day every day with like a literal timer. And I remember in the beginning, I used to like cry my way through my lessons, just like, I don't want to do this. My mom would say, like, this doesn't start until, like, the timer doesn't start until you start. And but then that you have those breakthroughs, like we didn't have like TV or like music, like like video games and stuff. So I remember there was a song, it's like Sonata in G major. It's like not one of Beethoven's greatest hits or anything, but it's like a 12-page sonata. And I remember finally figuring it out and being able to play it through without fucking up. And I was like, oh, this is what like, defeating King Koopa feels like, you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
It was like a video game to me. And that's really, truly when I started really falling in love with music, is when I actually could play it. And so I'm really grateful to my parents that they made me you know, practice, and they were very strict about it, because I think that discipline is like what makes me able to produce so many things in my life. You know, I'm all about like finish what you start. Sure. Whereas I think most people that I know, at least, are kind of like, like
give up, right?
I'll let somebody else do it, you know. But you know, and it's funny because my siblings, they were along for the same ride. They were, I have a brother and a sister, and they both were on the same schedule, but they just didn't really respond to it like I did. They just they don't play music anymore or anything like that. Okay. And for me, it's like, I've just never stopped playing it. I play a little bit of guitar, but I would never call myself a guitar player.
Okay. Was piano something that you continued to do? I mean, I know I did read that you got into tattooing very, very early, right? I mean, like 16, you were tattooing? 14,
actually. I started tattooing
14. Wow.
And then I got into my first tattoo shop, like professionally tattooing, when I was 16.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. I mean, that was, I don't know if you want to talk about that at all. I mean, sure. I'm curious to know, like, so how do you even get involved? Like, how do you cut into that at that early of an age?
Yeah, I think I was hanging out with the wrong crowd, and
of course.
And we were just like a bunch of little punk rock kids, and one of our friends, his name was Oliver, we would always paint on our leather jackets and stuff, and I would, doing like Misfits logos or whatever, and sure. And he was just like, man, you draw really well, because I've been drawing all my life. And he had like a homemade tattoo machine made out of like a guitar string, like strapped up to like a 9-volt battery. It was like really totally crappy. And oh
my gosh.
And he said, hey, I want you to tattoo me. And I was like, okay. And I think ignorance is bliss. It's not like I had a standard or a bar that I was like comparing myself to. I was just ignorantly tattooing. And so I remember like the first line that I tattooed, and I was like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. Like, I already knew it back then. And wow. It looked terrible. It's funny because when I wrote my first book, I actually hunted down this guy to get a picture of it, to like my first tattoo ever. And it was so like the skill and like the technique and the equipment wasn't there, but the art was there. And so I basically, like, all my underage friends, they didn't really care. They wanted to get tattoos. So I had like a plethora of friends that let me practice on them. And, it wasn't until I was 16 that I applied at a tattoo shop, and there wasn't that many tattoo shops around at the time. This is like before TV shows and all that stuff. So
right, of course.
Very popular. And, most tattoo shops were like located in bad parts of town. And this one was definitely in like the worst part of town in San Bernardino. And I went in there with like my portfolio of like crappy Polaroids and of crappy tattoos. And then I also brought my sketchbooks. And I remember Dave, the owner, he was this biker guy. He like flipped through the Polaroids of tattoos, and he was like, yeah, this is garbage. But then he looked at like my drawings, and he goes, okay, there's some promise here, And so he kind of took me under his wing. I didn't go through a traditional apprenticeship like most tattooers do. I basically just had to unlearn a lot of the things that I was doing ignorantly, and then he took me through the cross-contamination courses and all that stuff. And he is from San Diego too.
I know.
Yeah.
And he's in an amazing band called Prayers.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, good to see you, man.
Have a wonderful interview and wonderful day.
Oh, you too.
I kind of had to unlearn everything, and it's pretty cool. I always look back at the timeline of my life and career, and I'm always so grateful because I was put in these really super rough situations that were I would never want a child to be in, but at the same time, it really shaped my style and aesthetic and influences. So, having been working in a super ghetto part of town, I was doing a lot of like fine line black and gray, a lot of Old English. People were getting portraits, but I wasn't ready to do that at the time. A lot of lettering and just like a lot of the gangster shit, And so, and that's really like what I love the most. I'll be the first to say I suck at color tattoos. I don't do Japanese style tattooing. Like I know my limits,
Right.
But also like single needle tattooing is like some of the most difficult tattooing. That was something that I basically started with. And so I think I kind of got a leg up in the portrait world and the world of realism because of my upbringing. So I'm super grateful for that. I after that, I basically just, well, I should go back to saying that like it was completely illegal. Like I should not have been at a tattoo shop.
I was assuming that.
Yeah.
Since you weren't even legally able to.
Yeah, I didn't have a license, nothing. It was like a feral cat just tattooing people.
But it was probably a situation where not a lot of people went in and messed with you guys, I would assume.
No. Oh my God, no. I mean, it was crazy because there was 3 shops within that area, and there was like ground rules that were unspoken but acknowledged. You didn't open up a shop a certain like mile radius to another shop and without getting your shop burned down. I mean, it was like very barbaric.
Sure.
Like, it's not what now. It's a bunch of hipsters, and they're just like they're good at Photoshop or whatever. But back then, it was like you really had to love what you're doing because people weren't getting rich. They did it because it was a lifestyle and that they dedicated themselves to. And it was man, it was really cool. I always think very fondly of those memories. They were super rough. I was in situations that, being around guns and people, because there was like a prison right around the corner. So we were always dealing with like tons of riffraff, drugs and all that. And I somehow managed to escape, without a scratch.
Get out of there, sure.
Yeah. And then, once I graduated from that world, I moved to LA around 17 and started, getting jobs. And I feel like I averaged about a year at every shop as I kind of outgrew them. I'd never wanted to be like a big fish in a little pond. Like I always want to surround myself with people that are better than me, that I can like aspire to be. Like even now, like at my tattoo shop now, like my guys tattoo circles around me, like they do different styles that I don't do. And together we're a great team. But I think that's important. Usually I feel like a tattoo shop always has like the one guy that's good or whatever.
Yeah, you kind of have you have an all-star team, and if you want a Japanese style, you won't. We would hire the person that is great at that or whatever.
Yeah. So that's kind of the gist of it.
That's amazing. Were you playing piano at all during this time?
Yeah, throughout the whole time. Somehow I just managed to be able to land places that had a piano. My first roommate in LA had a piano. She was a piano player as well, so I could play a lot there, on a daily basis. And then when I started, I quickly started getting booked up. Like once I figured out how to do portraits, like I said, at the time there wasn't that many people doing it, and so it was, I just remember at one point I was booked out, 6 months, and then a year, and then it was 2 years, and I was like, oh my God, I won't be able to ever get sick, and and so then I started making money, and so I could afford to buy a piano, like a small piano at whatever apartment I was at, and I've always, to be honest, I've never had a fancy piano. I still don't. I have like I have a piano collection of like weird obscure Victorian pianos.
Oh, cool.
But some pretty cool rare ones too, but I don't have like a Steinway or anything like that.
Sure. There's something to be said about the old, like, just the grit to like the sound of some of those. I love that.
Yeah, you can hear the dust, it's like, I love that too. So so I still play piano. And I think too, like when I started writing music, obviously I wrote everything, most everything on piano, except with the exception of 2 songs I wrote on guitar and then translated to piano. And I make sheet music for all my music still. Like it's like it's a bit of a crutch to me, like most of my musician friends don't read music. They're not classically trained. So I feel like they have an advantage to a certain degree because they're just playing by feeling. Whereas for me, I'm like, I have a bad habit of, depending on structure, like I want to depend on it. So, but, and then when I discovered synthesizers, it was like, oh my God, it was like, taking piano to like, on
another
steroids.
level. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And it's so exciting. So yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at now.
When did you start writing songs? Is that recent? And I know you started this record, what, in like 2011 or something?
Yeah, it was like 10 years ago or something. So basically I was in this relationship with a guy who was also in a band who, lived overseas, and he was in a band, and we just had this like weird unrequited love situation, and like, and he ended up writing an album for me and delivered it to my house, like had it mailed to my house with like a note on it that said, these are all the songs that are, these are all the things that are easier sung than said. And I sat down and I listened to the album, and I was just like so moved by it. And I said, like, man, like what better way to respond than with an album? So, I think like pretty much like the only singing experience that I had at the time was like, you know, when I was like in church choir, when I was like, you know, 8 years old or something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then, so I wasn't a singer by any means. And like, and so I was like, I got to learn how to sing. So I found my voice coach, and I trained with him for 2 years, 6 days a week.
Wow.
And during that
you're
time,
like all in when you go, when it comes to something. I love that. I love that about you.
You got to do it right.
The piano, like, okay, I have to do this, but I'm doing 2 hours a day. Now I'm going to go 6 days a week. And that's so cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's no real, I don't believe in like innate natural talent. I don't think I think there's like innate creativity for like based on your life experiences and things like that. I mean, there's like some kids that are more artistic than others, or they see the world a different way. But as far as like technically mastering something, it's nobody's born with it, you know. Like Glenn Gould wasn't born playing the piano. He just started playing when he was 3 years old and didn't stop, you know, and that's why he was a genius at it. But so I think you know, and that should be inspiring to people. It basically means you could do it too. You just have to like,
anyone could do it.
Yeah, you just have to like sacrifice, you know, while everybody else is having a good time, I'm like doing something else that like, you know, is you know, I'd sacrifice a lot of relationships and, you know, fun opportunities to when I was working. But all worth it, of course. And then and yeah, I may have gone on a tangent and lost.
I love the tangent. It's all
okay,
good. So you started taking vocal lessons. You got the vocal lessons.
Yeah, and then during that time I was already starting to write. So you know, I always say like, I think living in LA, it's there's things I hate about it, you know, and there's things I love about it. But the thing I love the most is that there's just a plethora of creativity. You know, I like. Like I'm like the biggest fan of all my friends, like, and I think that's usually how we end up meeting, you know. And so I just was fortunate enough to have a lot of really creative, talented friends that I looked up to. And so when I told them I was starting to do an album, they were just like, oh, we want in on it, you know. So at the time, like Danny Lohner from 9 Inch Nails was my neighbor, and so we were hanging out all the time and listening to. We loved the same music, and so we started writing together, and then I was hanging out with Linda Perry. And so she was really keen on working on music too. We ended up writing like 22 songs together. And
really?
Yeah.
Which she's like a legend, obviously.
Yeah, she's so talented and amazing. So I think
22
like
songs. How long was that? Like
we were writing for years. I feel
years. Okay.
Well, I know, actually, no, I think with Linda, it's just like, it's such a constant flow. You know, we were writing like almost a song a day at times, but and I had a lot of things to write about, you know. It's like, you know, there was a lot of, I mean, it sounds as cliche as it sounds, like just a lot of pent up like feelings to process, and music was a perfect way to do that. So, and then I was like tattooing Dave Grohl, and he was like, oh, I want to play some live drums on, you know, some tracks. I'm like, cool. So we just went over to the studio, and just tracked some drums. And so I think that it was just exciting to see all my friends come together and support me. I think they all know my musical background, so they were excited to make this real. And but I think life gets in the way of life. You know, at the time I was filming a TV show, and then I went on like 2 or 3 book tours. Then I launched a makeup line, and it was like,
you're busy.
And everything just kept interrupting the one thing I really wanted to do. And most of it was like contractually bound. So I was like, okay, once I finish this, then I can do it. And it just kept happening. So you know, over a year ago, I sold my makeup line, and I was like, finally, this is the time. I'm overdoing the makeup thing, and now I can have time to tour and really focus. And then obviously the lockdowns happened. So
oh my gosh.
So we just, you know, we just took advantage of the downtime, and my bandmates, like when the first year happened, just moved them into, we have like a little like bungalow house in the back, and they brought their cats and their synthesizers, and we just like, you know, shacked up together for, you know, months. And just at first we were planning out like our stage show and writing like interludes and intros, and we just really loved what we were creating. So we said, hey man, we've got the time, why don't we just remix the album to match everything? And so we, as a band, remixed the album. But I still am proud of like the original mixes that I recorded with Adam Noble in the UK, and we plan on releasing those later down the road.
Okay, so the original mix, were they different? They're the same songs.
But like there's a little bit more guitar, and you know, there's a few other cameos on that one that are not on this one. And but yeah, it's like It's like it's just a different flavor.
Sure. I love the songs that you've released so far from the record.
Oh, thank you.
The 2 videos, and I know you have a new song coming out tomorrow as well, which is like one of 2 that
so we're
didn't write, right?
Yeah, we're releasing 4 singles before the actual album comes out in August. So tomorrow we release the 3rd single, and then we'll have one more.
Right? Yeah. Enough is the next one. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, are you keeping some of the girl drums, or is that going to be something that's come later?
That's going to come on the Adam Noble mixes.
Okay. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
So when was this whole record like kind of complete? Was it complete before COVID had happened?
Yeah. I mean, I would say when I flew out to the UK to get it produced with Adam. Well, first I had met Adam because he had mixed some of my favorite Placebo albums, and I loved Placebo has like some synthesizers but still has guitar, and I just was like, oh, would be the perfect fit, you know. And so I can't remember the exact year that was, maybe 5 or 6 years ago or something. And so the album was technically done, and then it wasn't until, you know, I got my band together that we started remixing everything. Yeah, I feel like I'm such a huge fan of synthwave, and I love like the nostalgic sounds of like analog synthesizers. So it was like I really wanted to kind of like lean in more on that side. We still kept some of the guitars, like there's a few Cure-ish sounding guitars like on this next single enough that I still love. You know, we love Sisters of Mercy and all that stuff. So it's hard not to like sprinkle some of that in there, but most of it is synthesizers now.
Wow. Were you able to collaborate with your husband at all?
You know, I sang on my husband's last album, and he wants me to sing on one song here, but these songs were written so long ago that like we had already recorded vocals and all that stuff. But we're already working on album number 2 now. So hopefully after we're done with touring, we can just dive right in and you know, go back on the road, I guess.
Sure. Well, you had experience obviously in the studio prior to putting this record together, because you had sang on other people's songs, correct?
Yeah, I sang on all my friends' bands. I feel like I sang on everybody's albums except my own. And it's good. And you know, I sang on like a few songs on the last IMX record, and that's actually how I met Sammy Doll, who's one of my synth players, because we were touring together, and like I went out and played a few shows with them, and it was a good experience, I think. Like, I mean, I used it strategically. I said, hey, like, this will be good to go. I've been on tour a million times with my friends' bands, but like, you know, just to really like soak up and research like what it is that I want to do with my own stage show, and you know, and have fun while you're doing it too. So yeah, it was cool. I played her like a demo of Exorcism at the time, and she loved it. And she was like, hey, if you ever want a key player, let me know. And I'm like, cool.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I love the videos too. The contortionist you have in the video, like in the Exorcism where she's like backwards, like walking behind you. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, that was a nod to the Exorcism movie.
Oh yeah. Okay, now it all makes sense. I didn't even put that together when I watched it.
You know, we have Bryn Rout is our you know, fellow bandmate. She is a bandmate. She doesn't play any instruments, although she is learning how to play the whip, because on the Exorcism track we actually sampled a real sounding whip, like a real yeah, exactly. So I was like, you need to learn how to play the whip live. So, but you know, to me it's like I love like the visual storytelling of like live performances, and when you go see a band play and there's like effort put into the stage show, and it's not just, you know, a guy in a cardigan like standing at a microphone, you know, like. And so Bryn brings a lot to the table when it comes to that, because, you know, we have like I said, you know, we recorded interludes and intros that are basically we wrote them with the intention of Bryn having her own moments on stage while we noodle around on instruments or go in the back and have outfit changes or whatever. So,
so you're bringing the whole show. It's not just going to be Kat Von D singing and then the band. It's a whole theatrical.
Yeah, and I'm working with Linda Strawberry, and she's like an amazing, just artistic mastermind. You know, she's like the creative director behind Smashing Pumpkins and a lot of other bands and stuff. And we have like a lot of the same tastes as far as like, you know, beautiful but macabre, and so this month we're filming all the vignettes that we'll be playing for live visuals and set design and lighting, and really have these like special moments throughout the night, and being able to change them from like day to day. You know, that way, like, you know, it's not always the same show.
Sure. Okay. Wow. So it's not going to be like, okay, we're going to plan this whole thing together and then we're going to just go on the road with the same box of a show.
Yeah. I wanted to slightly change, obviously, like, you know, whenever we feel like it, you know, we have a few like cover songs that we want to slip in and out, and yeah. Well, it should be fun. I can't wait.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear the rest of the record. I mean, the two songs I've heard so far are awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And then you'll do a video, I'm guessing, for Enough?
Yes, that video is going to be released. We've already filmed it. It's going to be released next week, which I'm really excited about. This one is like, it's such an obscure video and it's unlike any other video we've done, but like I was kind of pushed out of my comfort zone because I'm like a huge fan of Franz Zizoni. He's like an amazing photographer. Mm-hmm. And so he, you know, I had asked him, hey, I know you don't typically do music videos, but like you have such an amazing creative eye. Like, would you like to collaborate? And he came up with, you know, he wrote the entire video, directed it, and did all the set design and art direction. And so there was like a lot of costuming, and I'm like, oh my God, like I haven't worn anything that isn't black in a long time. So there's like some wild, outrageous costumes, and I think people are really gonna love it.
That's cool. That's cool. And you're doing a tour, right? Obviously for the record.
Yeah.
And you're touring with Prayers, right?
Yeah. You know, we
That's
have a
cool.
son. We have a 2-year-old together, and I'm just so excited about being able to take him on the road with us. And
that's cool.
And yeah, and you know, and I love my husband's band, and I feel like they're kind of like the boyfriend to our band. You know, that they're it's like a much more masculine, very aggressive. You know, Prayers is just a lot more aggressive than what we are.
Sure.
So it's like best of both worlds. I feel like it'll be a great date night.
That's awesome.
For people.
I love that you're family tour. That's so cool. Yeah. Your husband, your son, and you guys all together, and that's amazing.
Yeah. We were talking to our friends from Cold Cave because that's what they do. You know, they have a kid together, and they're able to take them on tour. And you know, I can't imagine being that much like away from my family and for my husband and for my son for that long. So it'll be fun.
Makes sense. Yeah. To get everybody together on one tour. That's cool.
Yeah.
And the record's coming out in August. I just pre-ordered the autograph vinyl. $30 and it's awesome. Limited red. How cool.
Yeah. It's actually, very beautiful layout. I think it's actually better in person. I'm going to try, I have like one prototype here, and I want to try and do a video of it to kind of show the actual like gloss finish and everything. There's like these really beautiful like fold out pages, and to me, I've always been such a sucker for vinyl. I still have my original record collection. My first record was like a Plasmatics record that I still have. And,
cool.
And I always was like, I love reading all of the thank yous, like, because I feel like you find clues to other bands.
Find other names and producers and
totally. Yeah. So I'm just like such a huge fan of that stuff. So hopefully, I think my fans are intuitively like artistic, and they respond to the same stuff too. So I think they'll like it.
Yeah, that's cool. And I'm sure you are the art director for everything as far as that goes.
Yeah, I like to micromanage everything. Drive everything crazy.
That's so cool. Well, congratulations on the record. That's awesome. And I can't wait to see the live show. And are you doing like a big full US tour?
Yeah, we're gonna do US tour. So the album comes out in August, and then in September we're gonna have like 4 warm-up shows. San Diego is one of them. LA, SF, and Arizona. And then after that, we start routing for the US tour, and then we have routing for Europe in May. So
awesome.
Hopefully, you know, Canada and South America opens up soon, because those are 2 of my favorite places to go and tour. So
yeah, they're still pretty tightly locked in there. I know I've talked to quite a few bands from Canada that are like itching to get out and play, but hopefully sooner than later. And Kat, thank you so much for taking so much time to chat with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I'd love talking to you.
I have one more question before I let you go, if that's cool. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
I suck at advice, but I think, I don't know. I think that in this world, it's really hard to not fall for like the programming that's taking place in like the media, and like especially social media, where everything is very disposable. People are doing things for the wrong reasons, and I'm generalizing here, not everybody obviously, but there's like this lack of like humanity, especially in music. And I feel like I'm personally like so bored with so much music that's coming out now. Like I want to be excited. I'm like music's biggest fan. And so I think like if you're gonna get into it, like try your best to not listen to any of that noise and what's expected. Like, you know, who cares how long it takes till the chorus comes in, and who cares how long the song is? Like just write music, you know, like just make beautiful music. That's it.